The replacement for the Resource Management Act, or RMA, was unveiled today. The government selling it as a once-in-a-generation opportunity to cast off the shackles of a 30-year-old law that has held back development. The Minister in charge, Chris Bishop, has proposed two new laws, one for planning to regulate land use and the other to protect the environment. Independent analysis shows the changes could lead to a 46% reduction in required resource consents, which could save more than $13 billion over the next 30 years. And under a controversial proposed scheme, councils will have to pay homeowners relief if their planning controls infringe on property rights. Political correspondent Zane Small has more.
Chris Bishop grinning from ear to ear and gripping the hundreds of pages that make up the government's proposed new planning law to replace the Resource Management Act.
This is a once-in-a-generation shift towards choice, freedom and opportunity.
Words echoed by his boss.
The reforms that we're announcing today are a once-in-a-generation opportunity to finally unburden ourselves from the millstone weighing down our economy.
Big promises and with them big numbers. Independent analysis shows the government's proposed planning system is projected to save $13.3 billion over 30 years, because up to 46% of consent and permit applications would no longer be required.
Small changes that only affect your property won't need council consent.
Here's a look at some of the changes. More than 100 existing policy plans nationwide will be reduced to 17 regional plans. There'll be a much higher threshold for what is considered regulated, including reduced consideration of private views. The government wants more emphasis on property rights. Councils will need to provide relief to landowners if they impose significant restrictions. And a new planning tribunal will be established to resolve disputes.
Part of this shift is also significantly reducing the number of public hearings on resource consents, something that we know adds significant cost and delay to important projects.
This government has shown time and time again that they will pass laws that further erode our environment and our living systems, our habitats and species.
This all adds up to an easier, cheaper system. It means less paperwork, less cost and faster and easier progress for those who want to do basic things like putting a deck on a house, building a fence on a farm or constructing some townhouses or even Murray Davidson, a wind farm.
Replacing the RMA isn't a new idea. The previous Labor government also repealed and replaced the RMA with its own version. But when the coalition government came to power, Labor's replacement was repealed and replaced with the original version of the RMA, which the government of today is now repealing and replacing with its own version.
From what I can see, there's a heck of a lot of similarities between what they're proposing now and the law that they repealed.
But Chris Bishop had this to say about Labor's reforms back in March.
This RMA is 900 and whatever it is pages. The NBA, the National Built Environment Act that Labor passed, was longer.
But look, I think everybody is looking for greater simplicity when it comes to land use and environmental regulation, and that's not a bad thing, it's a good thing.
The Property Council echoed that view, describing the direction as very positive for development, investment and economic productivity.
It's about slashing nearly half of consents. Economic growth will begin as soon as we turn on the system, and it will build up over time.
But later today, Chris Bishop shared on social media that his Wainuiomata office had been smashed up. A bit of a dampener for the RMA reform minister on the day he delivered on his promise of RMA reform.
OK, Zane. And the government's passing some of the reforms under urgency.
Yeah, that's right. Legislation to extend existing resource consents will be passed under urgency in the coming days, and the government says that's to provide certainty to current resource consent holders as well as councils while the existing RMA law is replaced. And that's because there are thousands of consents which are likely to expire next year, as well as now expired consents where applications are still pending. And now, Sam, I've just received some fresh details on this. So consents stuck in the renewal process will be extended for 2 years after the end of the transition period, which is expected to be in 2031. But now Labor leader Chris Hipkins says he wasn't consulted on this urgent change, and he's described it as terrible lawmaking because he says automatically renewing consents opens up questions about whether those consents would have actually been allowed to be renewed. So a bit of a controversial move there by the government, but Chris Bishop says it was intended to make things simpler.
OK, Zane, thanks so much.